Welcome to another Fun-Filled Friday edition of Second City Sports. We're live in living color right here on Sports Soul Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakina. You can follow yours truly under Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow Makita McGee on the Twitter and Akita's going in the IG.
Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. You want to know why? Because we said so, that's why. And also, too, you can catch up on the other live shows that we have airing throughout the week, including our replays of the day's previous shows. So if you happen to miss, you can go back and watch them and listen to them at your own leisure. Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app today. Speaking of Sports Zone Chicago, you can follow us on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, please find Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. And while you're at it, please subscribe to our podcast at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are available on all podcast platforms, including that iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please subscribe to War Media at WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, please find War Media at WARR Media on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinions during our 2-hour extravaganza we call it Sports Talk Radio Show, you can always go to the comment section at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Typing in questions or comments in the comments section, Lakina will get them up on the screen for you. But if you decide to troll and or do something silly or stupid or just flat out dumb, I've given Lakina full power to give you fools to be a boot. But before we begin, we must remind you that you also catch Sports Zone Chicago now available on Roku TV. That's right. So celebrate the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV. If you already have a Roku television, just tap on that sports folder and download that Sports Zone Chicago app. If you don't have a Roku television, we know you have some handheld devices laying around, iPhone, iPad, iTouch, your Chromebook like I'm using right now, your personal PC like Lakina's using right now. Just hit up the Google Play Store and download that Roku TV app and access Sports Zone Chicago through that avenue. So no more excuses. Celebrate with the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV. It's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Live and on demand.
Anytime, anywhere.
And you know we will provide.
Yes, we will. We will provide you, as we get ready. Of course, it is Friday. We got football Friday. Of course, we got week 3 of college football. Somewhat a light slate, but a little bit of trash talking going on here as we gear for one particular game. We'll talk about that after the break. And of course, CBS 10 Tampa's David Schiele. I think that's how you say his name, Sid.
Yes.
Yeah, I got it. He's the sports anchor there in Tampa and CBS 10, and he'll help us preview Bears and Bucs. Now, our girl Christine Manica is not with us this week, but we do have our picks, and of course, we're doing our week 2 picks. Also, too, we're going to recap the interesting Vikings Eagles game from last night, and then a whole lot more. But Sid, we're going to go to the diamond and talk some baseball.
Yes, the Chicago Cubs are hanging on by a string. Pardon my R&B reference from loose ends from 1985. The Cubs are currently now 78-69, right in the thick of the wild card race. They're in second place in the NL wild card position. Of course, they're 4.5 games behind the Milwaukee Brewers in the NL Central as they lose 2 out of 3 to the Colorado Rockies. Of course, the Rockies take the series finale on Wednesday. The Cubs are 2-5 in their last 7 games, 5-5 in their last 10 games. Lakina, they're going through a tough stretch right now as we now mark the official middle of September. The Cubs are going through a tough stretch right now. They lost 3 or 4 at home to the Arizona Diamondbacks, who they face again this weekend on the road. And they lost 2 or 3 of Colorado. I'm not going to ask you, are there any problems? Obviously, there are problems. A couple things that I observed through that series against Colorado. One, the leadoff man is now Christopher Morel. Hopefully, he can give them a spark. Number 2, Jordan Wicks. He pitched his butt off on Monday to get the only win for the Cubs in that series. But the other starting pitcher like James Italian and Javier Assad, who's done very well in the absence of Marcus Stroman, it looks like they're starting to come unglued a little bit. And for the Cubs, number 3, their bullpen, we talked about this last week, Lakina, especially with getting some rest for Albert Alzolay, who's their closer. But some of the middle relief guys and your setup guys are starting to break down. So the Cubs got to buckle up and pack it in if they want to make the playoffs, which I still think they're in a perfect position to do. The division, they technically are still in it, but realistically, I think they're in the shoe-in for the second wild card spot.
Yeah, I think for me, this is sort of the ebbs and flows, especially we're going to the tail end of it. Of course, you wish they had a better record against the Rockies. Of course, Chris Bryant, I think that was like the first time he's hit a home run against his former team. So
I know he still existed.
Yeah, I know, right? People forget that he's over there in Colorado now. But okay. But look, they got the day off yesterday to kind of shore things up. I know Aslay's on the IL right now. You should be getting off the IL next week. You get the Diamondbacks. Of course, you can give a little bit of revenge. 2 out of 3 would be good, but I think the sweep would be great that way in case you guys do the Cubs and the Diamondbacks do end up getting tied. You'll have the tiebreaker. You have to be able to you won't have to worry about having to go on the road for one of your wild card plans. But I mean, look, it's definitely one of those things where you're kind of like, oh gosh, why is this happening? This season, of course, hopefully they can kind of get together and kind of get things going because you want to keep pace. Of course, you did gain half a game yesterday because I know Arizona didn't have a good week, neither did Cincinnati. But also too, you kind of take care of your own business. The division might be out of reach, maybe, but all at the same time though, but I think you still gotta shut the press, maybe make some inroads.
Yeah, and for this Cubs offense, as we said, Lakina, they still have to continue to swing the bats and swing the bats even more now since the pitching on all fronts, both starting in the bullpen, has been up and down right now. You mentioned with the injuries that they had to deal with their closer, Alzolay. Seiya Suzuki is continuing to impress, Lakina. I know he had a close call on Monday where he got thrown at home plate. I thought he was safe, but regardless of that, he's been swinging a hot bat. Nico Horn, I believe, has stolen 40 bases on the season. Yep. I know he's been leading off for a while, at least to start the year, but I like him in the number 2 hole. As I mentioned at the top, Christopher Morel is now leading off for the Cubs over there, provides a spark. Of course, we mentioned some of the role players like Mike Tauchman, who's been doing a great job at center field. Of course, you don't forget about Belly Bomb, Cody Bellinger. I know he's cooled off a bit, but he's a bit bat in that lineup. So you need all systems to go for that offense to carry you through. I expect them to expose that weak Diamondbacks starting staff this weekend.
Yeah, and I think they really are in a position to do just that. So hopefully, they can kind of, they struggle a little bit. They lost 3 out of 4, and at Wrigley, so maybe they can get some revenge. Winning in their home. Talk about the defense, but I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of Cub fans there. So should be a good series, nonetheless, and a fun series too. As listen to Z Sports on Sports Social Chicago, Lakina McGee, Cindy Brown with you. Cindy Kid Brown with you, I should say. And you want to talk about your White Sox, Sid, real quick?
They won one game against Kansas City. Whoop-de-doo.
Yeah, they lose a tough one. Well, not a tough one, but the Twins hit 3 home runs in their opening series last night. And I guess what's the Twins? I guess their budget number, I think, was like 7 or something like that.
I believe it's 7. Yeah, at least they won't be celebrating on the Comiskey Park field, unlike in 2004. But I'll leave it at that. Right, like I said, Minnesota will get their ass kicked by Baltimore and Tampa in the first round. Carry on.
Well, speaking of Baltimore and Tampa, they start their 4-gamer, and of course, it was Tampa Bay that won that opener of that series, 4-3. And unfortunately, Baltimore hasn't really had a good showing last week, I should say, because they lose 2 out of 3 against St. Louis at home. Then you lose the opener against Now, don't look now, but the Rays are kind of like right there. They're only about a game out as we're recording this. So what do you think? How do you think the series is going to shake out?
Baltimore needs to win the rest of these games to grab control of the AL East. I believe whoever wins this series will win the AL East. Remember, Tampa got off to that hot start, and they started to deal with injuries toward the middle of the season around the All-Star break. And then Baltimore caught fire, and they held on. Of course, now Baltimore is dealing with injuries themselves, like their closer, Felix Bautista. I don't know if he's going to be back for the playoffs or not. And there's a couple other playoff contending teams are dealing with injuries. We'll talk about that in a second. But with Baltimore, like I said, that offense, and we talked about it all year long, Lakina, you have some big boppers with some big names in their lineup. They need to keep it up, but their starting pitchers is what's going to carry them through second behind that hot offense. And we talked about with Tampa Bay for the last few years, Lakina. They have some names, but they know how to play fundamentally sound baseball with the starting pitching, with the bullpen in the defense. And we have a formula like that to win. That's going to keep you in ball games.
Absolutely. So, and I think you thought that maybe the Orioles would have this division locked. Well, that doesn't seem to be the case anymore. So we'll see. I mean, it should be a lot of fun with this series. So I'm going to try to check that series out, the rest of that series. And well, speaking of, like you said, Sid, I mean, injuries. Max Scherzer, who of course was traded to the Rangers, he's going to miss the rate of the regular season and maybe even the postseason. To a strain Therese muscle in his pitching arm, and that's not good. He's actually has had a good been playing pretty well here for the Rangers. So they lose they did up sweeping the Blue Jays 4 straight. Oh, brother, that might be it for Toronto. But what do you think? Scherzer being out. I mean, he was sort of like that extra pitcher that they needed. So now he's out. What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, he was that veteran that young Rangers team needed, and remember, he got out to a struggling start in his first couple of starts with his new team, but he's finally started to pick it up. But let's be honest here, you wonder why pitchers like that at his age are not signed to long-term deals, because the more you pitch as you get older, the more injuries that can occur. And you're seeing that with Max Scherzer right now. You can appreciate him for what he's done throughout his career. He's a workhorse, but the older you get, Father Time knocks at your door, and that's what's happened to him right now. Dane Dunning, former White Sox prospect, and Nathan Eovaldi, he needs to turn it around. No, he was injured early in the year. Those two guys needs to lead that Texas starting set if they want to have a chance at the playoffs. They're right there in the wild card. They're definitely right there behind the Houston Astros in the AL West. So, but I think that offense that struggled mainly through the month of August, they need to continue to pick it up in the month of September. Like you mentioned, again, they won the series at Toronto, and I know they have a tough one this weekend, and we'll get to that in just a sec. But that it looks like the offense is going to have to set the tone if they want to at least clinch a postseason spot.
Yeah, where's our buddy Brandon at? I mean, we were talking about staying at AL West, talking about his Astros. I mean, what happened? You lose 2 out of 3 to Oakland? What at home? What happened? Like, just as good grief. But yeah, I mean, look, they face Kansas City, so that should definitely be just what the doctor ordered for the Astros. So we'll see. Seattle, Seattle much better. Winning after losing that opener against the Angels, they do win 2 at the next 2 and winning that series. So that should good for them. And I think Julio Rodriguez, also Teoscar Hernandez. He went 1-4 versus the Angels in that opening game. That's his current on base streak. To 28 games. So he was actually able to break that streak. So on base streak. So it was actually a pretty cool. Actually had a good series. Julio Rodriguez had a good series as well. So that was definitely a series that they desperately needed after not a good week last weekend. Being swept by the Rays 3 out of 4 to the Rays. But yeah, this is definitely helpful. And there's still a game and a half back in the AL West.
Yeah, let's go back to the National League. Looking at the San Diego Padres, of course, they're out of the playoff chase. They lose 2 out of 3 to the Los Angeles Dodgers. It looks like Walker Buehler. I don't think we talked about this on Monday, but Walker Buehler, who had Tommy John surgery last year, he was supposed to make a comeback this year. The Dodgers say, no, we're going to shut it down. We'll see you next year. We're not going to pitch him out of the bullpen come playoff time. And congratulations to the Atlanta Braves. The first team to clinch a playoff spot and the first team to clinch a division title. It's their 6th NL East division title. They beat the Philadelphia Phillies the other night by the score of 4-1. Lakina, real quick, I'll ask you a question. I was watching MLB Tonight with Greg Amsinger, Chris Young, and Dan Plesac. And Greg Amsinger posed the questions to the 2 analysts on the panel. He asked, if the Braves win the World Series this year, they'll be their 2nd title in 3 years. Will it be the greatest Braves dynasty, better than that 90s team that only won World Series title during their 14-year run, winning the division, NL East division?
Yeah, this is like I think you mentioned that. So that's their 23rd division title since division play began back in 1969. And yeah, I think this will definitely be in the team picture. I mean, like you said, that Braves team with Glavin and Maddox and Smoltz and the rest of that group. They only won one in that 14-year span. So yeah, I think could you say that maybe they'll probably be the best ever? But I think you don't want to do the whole recency bias thing. So I would say, look, I know that they've been hitting the tail out that ball. I think they're right there. Right there in the top of all the major categories. I mean, Austin Riley had a great series during that, I think he had his 35th home run during that series against the Phillies. And of course, we know with Ronnie Acuna, he's being, probably one of the favorites for, NL, MVP, maybe even his, Max Strider as well, his teammates. So, I mean, look, this is going to be very tough, but yeah, I don't want to say it's the Braves and everybody else, but they're definitely the favorite. And, I think they're only like a couple games away for clinching all of baseball. I think they're like 5.5 up on the Dodgers. The Dodgers lost their opener. I mean, the Dodgers lost that regular series against the Padres. So, I mean, it's tough. Like I said, we gotta see how they do, because remember that was the one thing that those nice Braves teams didn't do, was they didn't do it in the playoffs a lot. They only won one World Series. So let's see if this group can win it.
As you mentioned, don't forget those Braves teams in the 90s and early 2000s. They were built on pitching and defense, and the version of these Braves are built on offense with some good starting pitching. Mentioned with Max Fried and Spencer Strider. Like I said, he's a National League version of Dylan Cease, not just with the looks, but with his better stuff than Dylan Cease, unfortunately, this year. But will it be the greatest dynasty, better than that 90s team? It's hard to say. It's really hard to say, but you can make the case. You really can make the case. I think overall, Lakina, you could say right now whether the Braves win the World Series this year or not. You could say this talented group of Braves players are better than those 90s teams, because, like I said, those 90s teams were built on starting pitching. Yes, you had David Justice. Yes, you had now Hall of Famer Fred McGriff as part of those lineups back then. But these Braves right now, that is an overall better talent of players, especially with that lineup that can hit the cover off the ball.
Well, yeah, and also too, let's see if they can sustain it. One of the reasons, probably one of the other good points about those 90s and early 2000s races, they were sustained it for most of that time. We don't know about this race yet. I mean, they are built to last, but we know how fickle baseball is. So we'll see if they can keep it going. But going into this weekend series, and we're up against it. That is the Yankees. Okay, yeah, double check. Yes, that is the Yankees. Oh, wait, is that the Yankees or is that Pittsburgh? Yeah, because they make that thing sound so small. Yeah, that is the Yankees. They're still within the hunt for the wild card. Go figure. They play Pittsburgh. They start their series. Atlanta and Miami. We'll see if they start resting guys once they clinch. The best record in baseball. Miami. They really need to, this is a bigger series for them. They're hanging on by a thread. Tampa Bay and Baltimore, they continue their series. That's the second game of the series will be on Apple TV Plus at 6:05. Boston and Toronto. I guess you can say bye-bye both those.
Yeah, this is an elimination series for both teams.
Right. Well, they fired their VP of baseball. Talking about the Red Sox did. So I guess they're going ahead there. Reds and Mets. Reds didn't have a good week this week, so we'll see if they can rebound. But I'm sure the Mets will have to play spoiler. Texas and the Guardians. They both are hanging on by a thread. Minnesota continues their series against Chicago. And Houston and Kansas City, they start their series too. Houston tried to get the last series out of their mouth. Let's say that last series.
The rest of the schedule looks like this. The Washington Nationals will visit the Milwaukee Brewers in Milwaukee at Miller Park. I'm not calling it that corporate name. Philadelphia will face the St. Louis Cardinals. So, of course, that's the other game that's on Apple TV Plus tonight. Of course, San Francisco at Colorado, big series for the Giants. The Tigers and the Angels, boo. Of course, the Cubs and the Arizona Diamondbacks. San Diego at Oakland. Of course, the LA Dodgers at the Seattle Mariners. That's a big weekend series for both those teams. And, of course, the Sunday night baseball game of the week on ESPN will look like this. Your Chicago Cubs will visit the Arizona Diamondbacks. That's Sunday night at 6 p.m. on ESPN2.
And it'll be Jordan Wicks against Ryan Nelson. So, Wicks will get his first taste of pitching on national television. Well, actually, it's actually his second time, but he did pretty well during his first. And so let's see if he can keep that up. And how's your schedule for this weekend in MLB?
Hashtag Football Friday will kick off following these messages. We'll get into week 3 of college football. Lakina, this season is flying by so fast. We'll preview Colorado State, Penn State, and Illinois from Champaign. Northwestern, can they win 2 in a row? Exactly. And we'll preview some of the key matchups from the world of the college pigskin. I'm Sid. That's Lakina. You're listening to Second City Sports. We're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I needed for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils too.
These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov, a public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Brother. All right, welcome back to Second City Sports on Sports Channel Chicago. I'm the Keenan McGee. You can follow me at Keenan McGee on the Twitter and at Keenan again the IG. Unmute Sid. You're muted. You're muted, Sid. There you go.
Yeah, I'm hearing sound in my ear. I apologize, but you can follow me on the Twitter and the IG at CK80. Once again, it's CK80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. And if you want to make a comment to our show, you can go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comments section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you.
All right, Sid. Let's go to week 3. We're already at week 3 in college football season. Just a couple of quick scores from last night. Miami, no trouble with Bethune-Cookman, 48-7. And Memphis, this is actually a good game here. Memphis and Navy. Memphis holds off Navy 28-24. A couple of games coming up tonight. You got Virginia and Maryland, old ACC foes facing each other. That's good. That's 6 o'clock on FS1. Army will face the Roadrunners, beep beep from UT San Antonio on ESPN, and Utah State and Air Force, an early Mountain West matchup on CBS Sports Network at 7.
All right, here's the schedule for tomorrow, Saturday, at 11 o'clock a.m. Central Standard Time on ABC. We'll have number 3, Florida State. The Seminoles will travel to Chestnut Hill, Massachusetts, to take on 1-1 Boston College. I know weather could be a factor, Lakina. I know that according to the sheet, SHEET, it's supposed to be 68 degrees and sunny, but they're going to have that potential tropical storm up the East Coast, and it's going to affect the Boston area. So you watch out for that. So hopefully those two teams can get the game in and get up out of there safely. Also at 11 o'clock on Fox is Big News Saturday, as number 7, the Penn State Nittany Lions will travel to Champaign, Illinois to take on the 1-1 Fighting Illini and Lakina. I know Penn State is favored by 2 touchdowns. Illinois needs to show up big. I don't know if they're going to do that. We saw Penn State. I know they're 2-0 so far. This is going to be tough at Illinois. I kind of want to cover my eyes because I think I know what's coming. But do you think they really have a chance to surprise some people, including yours truly?
I mean, they could, but I'm sure Penn State would love to have that revenge from last year. So when they lost to Illinois in about what was it, 7 or 8 overtimes?
I was going to say 9 overtimes.
9 overtimes, yeah. So I think they're going to want their revenge on that game. So yeah, I mean, if the score gets ugly early on, I mean, don't be shocked for all you Illinois fans. Just to say it, but I mean, it'll be interesting. I'm sure they can keep it close. I know that stadium down there, Memorial Stadium, downstate in Champaign, will be rocking. But yeah, I think it's gonna go down there very quick now. Potential upset alert here on ESPN. At the same time, we got LSU and Mississippi State. Mississippi State is 2-0, and they've had a pretty I know that they haven't played the best opponent so far, but Mississippi State, you're going to have the cowbells, you're going to have all that stuff happening. So I know Brian Kelly, this guy should be on upset alert.
Yeah, for Mississippi State, watch out for running back Jaquavius Marks. He has 3 touchdowns so far this season off of 43 carries to 250 yards. But LSU's big-time wide receiver, Brian Thomas, has 13 catches for 220 yards and 3 touchdowns. So if you LSU, you would think you would attack the air early.
Yeah, absolutely. So it should be interesting. And this could be a slugfest here down in Starkville. So we'll see what happens there now. At the same time on the SEC Network, of course, you got 2 old Big 12 foes, Big 8/Big 12 foes. You got the Kansas State, Kansas State Wildcats against our, the Fighting Mike Burmers, as we call them here. That's the Mizzou Tigers.
And Josh Fryman too.
Josh Fryman as well. So this should be a fun one down there in Columbia, and it should be interesting. I know Kansas State. I know so far they're quietly at 2-0, but so is Mizzou. So this should be an interesting matchup.
Yeah, watch out for Luther Burden, the wide receiver for the Tigers. He has 15 catches for 213 yards and a touchdown, so he could be a big factor. But check out that running back, Cody Schrader. He has 1 touchdown so far through 2 games this year, but he has 222 yards off of 41 carries.
Yeah, it should be a fun matchup here. Louisville and Indiana. No, there's no college basketball season has not started yet, folks. It's a football game that'll be airing on the Big Ten Network. Should be a fun one there. Wisconsin hoping to get that loss against Wazoo out of their mouth. They host Georgia Southern. That's another game. That's a regional coverage on the Big Ten Network. Iowa State, same thing. Hoping to get that loss from last week against Iowa out of their mouths. They got to go at Ohio. It's 11 a.m. on ESPNU. Weber State, Utah have won on the Pac-12 network. Let's get to some of these. Oh, and Peacock. This game's on Peacock at 1:30. Got Notre Dame hosting Central Michigan.
Yes, that should be a fun one from South Bend, Indiana. The Fighting Irish are 34.5-point favorites. Now to the late afternoon games on CBS at 2:30 p.m. Chicago time. We have 1-1 South Carolina. The Gamecocks will travel to Athens, Georgia to take on the number 1 team in the land, the defending national champions, the Georgia Bulldogs. Georgia checks in at 2-0 on the season. Georgia is 27.5-point favorites. I don't think this should be no upset alert, right?
No, I mean, I think, look, South Carolina has struggled this year. Of course, we saw what happened in that game opener against North Carolina. They're 1-1. I know Georgia's been buzzsawing everybody, so I don't think they should have any problem talking about Georgia. So this game could end early, so we'll see what happens there. Same time on ABC, you got Alabama, number 10 Alabama. They're not going to be in a very good mood as they go to South Florida to face the Bulls. I don't know. I mean, what's the line there, Sid? Because I don't know.
Alabama's favored by 33 points. I'll definitely take the points with Alabama.
Maybe take the points there, but yeah. So interesting here. Again, also on FS1 at the same time, we got San Diego State and Oregon State. That should be a fun one. A little bit of a barn burner there in Corvallis at 2:30. Oklahoma and Tulsa also at 2:30 on ESPN2. And maybe you're going in state and you're traveling in state. I mean, Tulsa has a decent squad. This could be a really big test. I mean, they're 1-1 talking about Tulsa, but Oklahoma, it kind of feels like they're sort of on a mission. Everyone's kind of settling in on both sides of the ball. So they really shouldn't have any trouble with Tulsa, but you never know. But I'm sure Brett Venables will make sure his guys doesn't look too far ahead to Big 12 play.
Yeah, the Sooners quarterback Dylan Gabriel has 6 touchdown passes so far this year of 484 yards. But for Tulsa, watch out for their 2 stars, running back Jordan Ford and wide receiver Marquise Shoulders.
Should be a fun matchup. There you got Minnesota and North Carolina at 2:30 on ESPN. That should be an interesting
Drake May, hopefully this will be a bust-out performance for him so far this year. He has 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions off of 477 yards passing. So Minnesota, I know they've been hanging in there with PJ Fleck, my guy in the Big Ten, but I think they're going to get some humble pie in Chapel Hill tomorrow.
Should be, yeah, there might be an intriguing matchup here. Northwestern and Duke for their annual battle of the smart schools. I know Duke's probably favored. That
18.5-point favorites.
Okay, so interesting. You might take the over there. Western Michigan and Iowa. That should be interesting. That's on Big Ten Network. Also on Big Ten Network, you got Vodtech and Rutgers.
Yep, a bar burner in that one. Also, too, going down the schedule here, if I ever get my screen straight, at 3 o'clock on Fox, we'll have number 6, the Ohio State Buckeyes, playing in the Horseshoe. They'll host the Hilltoppers of Western Kentucky. They check in at 2-0. I'm looking for a big day for my guy Marvin Harrison Jr. He struggled to start the year, but he had a big game last week. So far this year, he has 2 touchdown catches off of 9 receptions. I'm looking for a big game for Mr. Marvin Harrison Jr., and he should be the draft pick for the Chicago Bears coming up in the 2024 draft, but I digress.
Yeah, they shouldn't have any trouble with Western Kentucky. On streaming, this game's only been streamed on the Peacock Network at 4 o'clock. You got number 8 Washington at Michigan State. And with all the stuff going on with Mel Tucker and all that, we won't really get into it. But Washington going across country, that could be. I'm not gonna say it's gonna be a track game for the Huskies, but I know Michigan State is not the same Michigan State we saw a couple of years ago. But I think Michael Penix, has 8 touchdowns already and only 1 interception. I'm thinking that maybe they'll keep it close, but with all the stuff going on off the field with the Spartans, they might be a little distracted.
Yeah, Washington is a 16.5-point favorite. The over/under total is 56. You mentioned with all the off-field stuff that Michigan State has been dealing with over the last week or so. For their psyche, I think it's going to be a good thing for them to get it out of their system to go play. But I think too much challenge over there on the flip side for the Huskies. Like you mentioned, they're ranked number 8 in the nation. So I'm giving it to Washington on this one. I wouldn't be surprised if they went over the spread total, but I'm going with Washington.
All right, Northern Colorado and Washington State. That's at 4 o'clock on Pac-12 Network. At the same time, of course, you got North Carolina Central and number 24 UCLA. Defining Randy. That's gonna be on Pac-12 Network. Georgia State and Charlotte on ESPN Plus. Good one here as we go into the night games. You got number 11 Tennessee against Florida, 6 o'clock on ESPN. Now, if this was the Florida-Tennessee games from the early 2000s or even earlier than that, I could probably say maybe Florida might have a shot here. But, I mean, I just don't. Florida, to me, Graham Mertz, I mean, no shade, but I don't know. I mean, Tennessee, look, I know that I know people want to see this is going to be his first, for Joe Milton, the third is going to be his first big road test. So I'm sure that the crowd in Gainesville is going to be rocking, but I just don't think Florida's going to keep Florida. I don't think Florida has. You never know, but I think Tennessee will have control of this game.
Yeah, look for a big game from Tennessee's running back Jalen Wright. He has 25 carries for 233 yards so far this year. He has not sniffed the end zone, but I think he's going to sniff the end zone at least once, maybe twice. So look for Tennessee to establish the run early. Like you mentioned, on the flip side for Florida State, Mertz has not had a good year so far. I know he has 2 touchdowns in the pick, but the Florida Gators are going to have a big game for him if they want to pull off the upset at home.
That should be interesting. There, some of the other games, of course, you got Vanderbilt and UNLV, Miami of Ohio and Cincy, South Alabama against Oklahoma State as we're going into the night games.
Yeah, on FS1 tomorrow at 6 o'clock, Northern Illinois will travel to Nebraska to take on the 0-2 Huskies. Northern Illinois is 1-1, Nebraska is 0-2. Nebraska is favored by 11.
Yeah, might take the under on that because you never know. I mean, we won't know for sure about this, about that Sims. I don't know if Sims is the answer at QB, but I know Northern Illinois, I'm sure they'll want to get that bad taste against losing to Southern out of their mouth. So we'll see. Yeah. This could be an intriguing game. And if they don't, if the Huskers don't win this game, I mean, I think, folks in Omaha are going to lose their minds. BTN Network, this game here, Michigan again without Coach Harbaugh. They host Bowling Green. Shouldn't really have no trouble with them. That'll be
how convenient.
Right. I mean, look, they shouldn't really have. I think this is gonna be the last game he's gonna miss. So, they really shouldn't have any trouble with Bowling Green. The Falcons of Bowling Green. Georgia Tech against Ole Miss. That's at 6:30 on SC Network. Should be an intriguing matchup here on ESPN2. You got at the same time you got BYU and Arkansas.
Yeah, Arkansas has been one of those teams that's been surprising in the SEC over the last 2 or 3 years. But BYU, the Cougars from the West Coast, they're also 2-0. Their quarterback, Mr. Slovis, Mr. Caden Slovis, I should say, he has 4 touchdowns and an interception so far through 2 games. They like to air it out. And look for his target, Mr. Isaac Rex. He has 6 catches for 127 yards and a touchdown reception already. So let's see if Arkansas can slow down the air attack from BYU.
Should be this could be one of those whoever has the ball last. That might be the thing that.
I think Vegas will agree with you. The over and under total is 47.5.
Nice. So. So I would take that there. Syracuse and Purdue, that'll be the NBC primetime game of the week at 6:30. I gotta find a little ditty there for that little because you already got the big news Saturday on Fox. The backyard brawl, love when these 2 teams. I'm glad they're playing more and more now. Pittsburgh and West Virginia. That's going to be at 6:30 on ABC. That should be a lot of fun.
Yep. Also, too, at 7 o'clock, we'll have Wyoming and Texas on the Longhorn Network, i.e. ESPN Plus. And Texas is ranked number 4 in the country. Of course, they're coming off that big win at Alabama last Saturday night. Lakina, do you think it's going to be a letdown here?
Well, Wyoming's actually pretty solid, so you hope it does. I'm sure Sark will have his guys ready and not, not be, have that letdown. That's usually what happens when Texas gets a big win. So hopefully that won't be the case here, but we'll see what happens. Oregon hosts Hawaii. That's at 7 o'clock on the Pac-12 network. You got New Mexico State. That's not going to be. That game's not streamed anywhere. Clemson hoping to kind of try to get things going as they host Florida Atlantic. That's going to be on ACC network. And you got TCU and Houston. Should be a fun one here from 2 old Southwest Conference foes.
Yes, TCU and Houston both coming in at 1-1 on the year. Their quarterback, I'm talking about TCU, Chandler Morris. He's going to have a big game so far. He has 4 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. Remember, he didn't play well 2 weeks ago in the upset loss against the Colorado Buffaloes. Of course, Imani Bailey, I should say, from TCU. He has 233 yards rushing all so far this year. So like you said, I think this will come down to who's going to have the ball last. Again, TCU is favored by 7.5. The over-under total is 64.
I take the points. I know Houston's been struggling the last couple of years, but it's still a solid Houston program. So I would take the under just because for points purposes. But should be a fun one on there on Fox.
I want to go back to that previous game, the Florida Atlantic versus Clemson. I'm looking for Mr. Cade Klubnik to have a big game because him and the rest of the team disappeared a couple weeks ago in their loss at Duke. And I know he had I'm talking about Mr. Klubnik had a decent game last week, but I want to see him do more of it. People are hyping his name up to be a top 10, top 5 candidate for the Heisman Trophy. He needs to have a big game tomorrow night at home.
Yeah, I think that should be interesting, and it could be a lookout game for Clemson. So we'll see what happens there. Now, Colorado State and Colorado. That's gonna be yeah. Look, I'm imploring to watch another game besides this one, since this doesn't come out until 9. So I'm imploring to watch one of the other games. But Jay Norvell, the coach for the Rams from Colorado State from the Mountain West, apparently he said that I'm paraphrasing what he said. I guess I take off my hat and glasses when I'm doing interviews. What? Why would you say that? Like, especially you say that out loud. Like, what do you want to? Sure. Let's give the Buff Seal and Coach Prime more Baltimore material. Go ahead. Whatever. Jeez.
I saw Deion Sanders making the rounds today on the Pat McAfee show. He was on a couple other shows earlier today because ESPN College Game Day is there along with Fox Noon Kickoff. They're there as well this weekend to celebrate Colorado's 2-0 start. The number 18 ranked Colorado Buffaloes in the country. Like you said, Lakina, you just took the words right out of my mouth. Why would you give Coach Sanders and his young men and the rest of that Colorado coaches have extra bulletin board material? I know they're playing nice in front of the media, but those young men are seething behind the scenes. And everybody's behind them now in Colorado. They haven't seen this type of winning football in a long time. They're 2-0. Many people didn't expect the Buffaloes to jump off to this big start. Let's be honest, many people expected them to be 1-1. But since they're 2-0, they already surpassed some people's expectations. Colorado's favored by 24 points at home. I think they're going to stomp on Colorado State tomorrow. I just cannot rate. Shedeur Sanders, as Gus Johnson said a couple weeks ago, Deion's kid can play. Look for a big game from Dylan Edwards, Colorado star running back. He has 1 rushing touchdown this year, but he only has 3 receiving touchdowns, so he's going to be a threat coming out of the backfield. But also look for Xavier Reaver to have a big game as well. He scored their star wide receiver. He scored a touchdown last week against Nebraska. I expect him to continue his hot performance tomorrow night against Colorado State.
And Travis Hunter, I mean, I don't think they should be playing him on both sides too much because you don't want to wear him out, especially with conference play starting next week. So we'll see what happens there. The rest of the schedule, we got Fresno State and Arizona State that's the late game on FS1 at 9:30. Kansas and Nevada, that should be an interesting one on the CBS Sports Network also at 9:30. I think, like I said, Lance Leopold has done a great job with that program. They're not a basketball school anymore, but I'm not. Nevada is. I know they're 0-2. I know Nevada is, but you never know. I mean, you go to Nevada. That place is probably gonna be rocking down there in Reno, and it should be hopefully, I'm sure they shouldn't have any trouble talking about the Jayhawks, but I'm sure they won't get caught looking ahead. I don't think.
And at 10 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time tomorrow night, I know Lakina's going to watch at least a little bit of this. UTEP at 1-2 will travel to Arizona Stadium in Tucson to take on the Arizona Wildcats. They're checking at 1-1 on the season. Arizona's favored by 17.5 points.
Yeah, well, I'd say it might be an early night for me, especially if some of these games are going to be blowouts. So it might be an early night for me. So, yeah. But and that's our schedule for this week in college football. And, anything else before we take a break, Sid?
Like I said, my top 3 Heisman candidates right now that I'm looking for big performances tomorrow. Quarterback Derek May from North Carolina, Shedeur Sanders from Colorado, and, of course, Caleb Williams from USC. Those are my top 3 candidates for the Heisman Trophy right now.
Well, like I said, I think it's Caleb Williams is I think Heisman to lose, and so then someone knocks him off or whatever. If Shedeur Sanders has a great game against him next week, a couple weeks I should say. I mean, he might put himself in the Heisman discussion, but I think it's still too early. But we'll see what happens. But still a lot of football left to be played.
Stay tuned for more sports and more fun. That Second City Sports hashtag Football Friday continues with Mr. David Schiele from CBS 10 in Tampa Bay to preview Chicago Bears and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with the Week 2 matchup ahead for this upcoming Sunday. You're listening to Sports Zone Chicago.
No, I don't know, though. I'm scared. I mean, you're scared.
Do you know that you're in my lane?
No, not at all.
Are you not paying attention? Are you texting?
I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6.
It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention.
I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention. It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Hi, I'm Tom Brady, the director of DODEA. September is National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. The simple act of reaching out and caring for those in our communities is something we all can do. Just being there for someone you care about can be a tremendous first step in getting them access to confidential resources and support that they need. It only takes one person and one small act and 1 minute to make a difference. Let's make a difference.
Move it!
Many will hear the calling. Few will earn the title. United States Marine. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Welcome back to Second City Sports. I'm Sports of Chicago. Welcome to Hour 2, in which we continue our Football Friday. I'm Lakina McGee. You follow me at Lakina McGee on the Twitter, X, and Lakina's going on the IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sydney Brown, on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. We have less than an hour left of this extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show. If you have any questions or comments for us, especially for our next guest, as we preview the Chicago Bears and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers ahead of the Week 2 matchup in the National Football League, you can hit us up in the comment section at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions and comments in the comment section. The best ones and the creative ones, Lakina will put them up on the screen for you.
All right, Sid. So one of the things that we've been doing it for the last few months, especially this year. This one of our resolutions was to bring more and more new people on, and we're going to do just that. We're going to do it once again a day. Of course, we're going to try to get somebody on to preview whoever the Bears are playing that week, where they're going to be playing the Bucs this Sunday. So Ed, to help us preview that, he is from CBS 10 down there in Tampa. He's the one, the only Mr. David Schiele. Hi, Dave. How are you?
Yeah.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Yeah, we're doing great. How about yourself?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Awesome. I'm doing well. I'm dressed for work. We've got a big preview show that we do every Sunday, and we record it on Friday night. So I'm getting ready to go in and talk about some Bucs and Bears, basically.
Oh, okay. Oh, good. Because I thought we didn't have to dress up for us. I mean, look how casual we are. So I know we have a reason for it. But okay. So David, well, let's start with talk about your Bucs. I mean, was anybody shocked about what happened last week against the Vikings?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't pick Tampa Bay to win, and it wasn't because I didn't think Tampa Bay was good enough to win the game. It was mostly because I thought the Vikings were, playoff team a year ago. They had so much continuity on the offense and defensive side of the ball. They had a new defensive coordinator in Brian Flores, who I think deserves to be a head coach in this league. And also in home openers, the Vikings were just so dominant. They were 6-1 at US Bank Stadium in the first game of each regular season at home. So I just thought all the factors pointed to Minnesota. But honestly, the Bucs took that game away from them, literally took it away. And it was an impressive win. I think it sent a statement, at least around the NFC, that we're not going to lay down for anybody.
Talk to us about Baker Mayfield's performance last week, David. I know he only threw for 169 yards, but he threw 2 big touchdown passes. He was only sacked once, but that game was televised here in Chicago, and I saw some of that, especially early. And I said, oh, no, Baker Mayfield may not last through this game, but he got it together, especially in that second half, made some key passes, and the Bucs were able to come out with a win. I know Kyle Trask is waiting in the wings to take his spot, but give us your assessment about Mr. Mayfield's performance last week.
Yeah, I thought Mayfield started slow. I mean, he admits that. He says, yeah, he started slow. He was 3 for his first 11 passes. So it wasn't a very good start. But then he finished 18 of his last 23 with those 2 touchdown passes that you mentioned. He also put the team on his back with his legs, basically converted a 4th and 1 on a QB sneak. And then there was a big 3rd down, final drive of the game. He's driving 3rd and long, goes to the right side, gets the 1st down. And by doing that, they were able to grind the clock and essentially put the game away. So he really played well. Like you could see that throughout the game, he was getting more comfortable. He was starting to command the offense better. The Bucs held the ball for more than 20 minutes in the second half. So that points to Baker Mayfield being the starter and the leader that this team needs right now. And hopefully for his sake, he doesn't screw up too bad that they say, okay, we're going to put Kyle Trask in the game.
Yeah, let's talk about Mike Evans for a second, David, because I kind of feel like he has a lot to prove, especially since they didn't, he had the little deadline about the contract extension and, maybe even a trade. So he actually had that go-ahead touchdown catch that ended up, kind of putting the game away for the Bucs. So do you think he kind of has a chip on his shoulder, feeling like, okay, I got a lot to prove and, get that big contract?
Yeah, I mean, Mike Evans has already done enough to earn the bag. He's been in the league 9 seasons. He's had 1,000 yards every single season. Mind you, he only played with Tom Brady for 3 of those seasons. So it's not like he needed the quarterback to make him that good. Mike Evans was always just that good. I think the thing for Mike is he wants to be a Buc for life. The Bucs just aren't swimming in cash. The Bucs don't have enough money. The Bucs don't have the ability to bring him back for definitely value, but it'd be more sentimental, right? He's 30 years old, so now he's in that 30-plus range at wide receiver, which, that's usually about the time where you fall off the cliff. Well, they have some needs on the defensive side of the ball. You got to bring Devin White back at middle linebacker. You have to have him there. You have to bring back Antoine Winfield Jr., your free safety. You've got to bring those 2 pieces back. They are the cornerstones of that defense. So they're paying the bills is what they call it. They bought out. They sold out to go get Brady and go get all the other veterans, go get Gronk and go get Antonio Brown and go win a Super Bowl. And by God, they did it, right? But now the bill has arrived. Hey, you won a Super Bowl. Congratulations. Here's the bill. And now they have to pay it. And it's going to cost them a guy like Mike Evans in the end.
David, you talked about some of those big names you mentioned on that Buccaneers defense. Of course, some of those names are still left over from the Tom Brady era and from that Super Bowl title they won a couple of years ago. Now, they did hold Minnesota to 17 points last week. Of course, facing the Bears, we'll get into the Bears side of it in just a minute. But even though it's just been one game so far post the Tom Brady era, how good do you think this Bucs defense can be?
Yeah, the core of that defense is still here. When you look at the Super Bowl season, you look at Levante David, You have Devin White. You have Antoine Winfield Jr. They've had to change strong safety a few times between Whitehead. They've had Jordan Whitehead. They've had Keanu Neal. They've continued to find different safeties. Logan Ryan. So they're on Ryan Neal now, but they've had changeover at that position. But you have Carlton Davis, your number one cornerback, who is likely going to be out on Sunday. So that might be a good thing for DJ Moore. So you have Carlton Davis and you have Jamel Dean. So you have a defensive core that is still there. And so is Vita Vea at defensive lineman. So you have this core, and that core is intact. They're playing under Todd Bowles' system, and they're comfortable with that. They're all comfortable playing because even though Todd Bowles went from DC to head coach, it's still his defense. It hasn't changed anything. So that side of the ball, in my opinion, was going to have to carry the weight for the Bucs early as the offense caught up to speed and tried to gel. And we basically saw them do that. They had 3 turnovers in the first half against Minnesota. So while the offense was trying to figure things out, they were taking the ball away from Kirk Cousins and the Vikings offense, and then they were able to go into the half tied 10-10, which basically reset the game. When you're tied at half, basically think of it, look, it's a 2-quarter game now. It's 0-0. Whoever scores the most in these 2 quarters is going to win, and that happened to be the Buccaneers.
We know Todd Bowles is a very defensive minded guy. So how much do you think he's gonna kind of try to blitz and try to get to Justin Fields on Sunday with David and Vita? Vita is one of my favorites. So I'm sure he's going to be, Justin Fields going to be seeing a lot of it. So how much do you think they're going to be blitzing hard, for Fields on Sunday?
Yeah. So if you go back to that matchup between the Bears and the Bucs back in 2021. I think that was Justin Fields, maybe his 5th start in the NFL, and it was in Tampa Bay. Todd Bowles sent a ton of blitzes at him, a ton. He wanted to freak out the young rookie, and of course, Justin Fields is no longer a rookie, but that tape is, that tape is that tape. It's like, look, we can send pressure, and it basically forced Justin Fields into a mistake. He was sacked and fumbled twice. He was picked off 3 times. So it wasn't a good day for Justin Fields. It just wasn't. So I think that is something that Todd Bowles can remember and think back and say, okay, that worked. Let's add some wrinkles to that based on the pieces we have on defense now and see how we can affect him again. Because Todd Bowles admits, look, there's no necessarily stopping Justin Fields. You just have to hope to contain him. Don't let him break out of the pocket too much. Don't let him scramble in the open field too much. He's gonna get it. He's gonna get his. Just have to limit how much he gets.
We're hanging out with David Schiele from CBS 10 in Tampa Bay, previewing Bears and Bucs right here on Sports Zone Chicago, Second City Sports on our #Football Friday show. Sid Lakina hanging out here with you. Dave, let's go back to that Tampa Bay offense. Of course, Rashad White had 17 carries for 39 yards last week. Of course, Chase Edmonds, the former Arizona Cardinal, he had a couple of carries in there as well. How much do you think that Tampa Bay will run the football against this Bears defense? Because watching that game last week, David, with the Bears and the Packers, Aaron Jones, before he went out with a hamstring, ran all over that Bears defense. I know the Bears linebacking core improved. I know Yannick Ngakoue is there for us on the defensive end, but Green Bay still did what they had to do, running all over the Bears defense. Will it be Rashad White's show, or will it be a running back by committee for Tampa Bay on Sunday?
Rashad White is the first running back on this depth chart, and he's earned that. I think the attack from offensive coordinator Dave Canales is balanced. It's a balanced attack. So that simply means that they're going to marry the run with the pass. And so it's not so much we're just going to run the ball the whole time. It's not the Tennessee Titans where just give it to Derrick Henry and see what happens. It's more of like let's have a rhythm to what we do. We're going to set the defense up. We're going to start running the ball. And if we can establish that running game, then when we line up in a run formation, we'll break off of that and hit them with the pass, hit them with a play action pass. They want things to look one way and then deceive you and give you the opposite. So you want plays like, oh, this looks like a pass. Oh, it's a run. Okay, this looks like a run. Oh, it's a pass. And that keeps the defense on their heels because now they're like, I don't know what's happening. We don't know what's coming. That's the goal every single time. And so if the running game is going well, which some people will say it didn't go well in Minnesota. I was one of those people. But Dave Canales told us just yesterday, he was saying, oh, well, we ran for at least 4 yards on 50% of our runs. So that means we had a pretty good day. Okay, that's fine. But Rachaad White has only had one 100-yard rushing game in his career. And so now I think the Bucs are looking for him to take that next step. Be that type of running back. Be the running back that can get 100 yards, at the snap of a finger. That'd be ideal. And then you marry that with the fact that you can drop back and pass to Chris Godwin or Mike Evans, and you've got an offense that's going to be pretty hard to stop.
Shaq Barrett, of course, sadly with the tragedy what happened with his daughter in the off season, and he actually played pretty well in that game against Minnesota. I mean, you don't go, you can't. There's really no way to kind of go on after something like that. But you kind of feel like he sort of feels a little bit. The football is kind of like a sanctuary. How is that looking for him?
Yeah, that was super, super tough. I just applaud the Barrett family for their strength and their resiliency. Barrett admitted during training camp that some days are harder than others. He wakes up and he's just really distraught, from losing his daughter. She was 2 years old, right? She's only 2. And so it was really tough. And he also said that football has been a safe haven for him. Football has kept him busy, but also it's motivation for him to play well for her. And he also just he was like, man, this was going to be the first season that she was going to be able to come and actually remember, and actually see me play and say, oh, that's daddy, and so there's that. But he has a tattoo of her now on his arm. So he's playing for her this season. And you know what? I'm rooting for him. I don't know how anybody could not be rooting for Shaq Barrett this season.
Going back to Tampa Bay's offense, David, of course, you brought up Chris Godwin and Mike Evans earlier. You mentioned the running game. Who else on that offense should Bears fans should be watching for this Sunday from the Tampa Bay offensive perspective?
So we talked a little bit about Rachaad White, but the number 2 running back, Sean Tucker, should be a name that Bears fans should just kind of just put a pin in that. I'm not saying he's going to go crazy or anything like that. 3 touchdowns, 200 yards. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is he's going to get his carries. Undrafted rookie out of Syracuse. He's been the guy that's been getting the carries in relief of Rachaad White. So when Rachaad White's not on the field and you see a big number 44 and you see he's got those big Dwight Howard shoulders, that's Sean Tucker. And he's a powerful, powerful runner. He's got speed, and he just understands the game already. I think once the game slows down for him, he's going to be a true force in that backfield. That's a name I think Bucs or Bears fans should just kind of have back there. So when they see him get the ball, they're not like, who in the heck was that? Just his name is Sean Tucker, went to Syracuse. He was great there. Would have been drafted if not for an undiagnosed heart issue that kept him from doing the combine drills. So because he didn't participate in the combine because of that heart issue, teams weren't like, I don't think we're going to draft this guy. But the Bucs said, you know what, we're going to give him a shot. He's healthy, he's good to go, and he's playing well.
What are the realistic expectations for the Bucs this year? I mean, are they perhaps maybe contend for that NFC South or one of the wild card spots? What's your assessment on this?
I have the Bucs winning 6 games, and that honestly hasn't changed because they beat the Vikings. That's been my thing the whole time. I actually, when the schedule first came out, so they didn't even have the times, the kickoff times yet for the preseason games. So I have that first raw schedule printed out. I actually had Tampa Bay winning the first 2 games. I had them winning against Minnesota on the road and then at home against the Bears. But then I have them kind of on a losing streak for a while as they try to figure things out and pick the pieces back up. And I have them winning 6 games. I think that's right now that's fair. Like we saw the Vikings last night against the Eagles. They weren't that good. So maybe the Vikings have fallen off that cliff. Every year there is a team that made the playoffs the previous season that is going to fall off the cliff, whether in the NFC or the AFC. And right now the Vikings look to be that team. So I'm not saying that diminishes the win by the Bucs. It was a great win. It was a road win. In a hostile environment, they deserve the credit for doing what they did. But that does not change the way I see this team overall. Baker Mayfield is still Baker Mayfield. he did not morph into Tom Brady. He did not change. he's still Baker Mayfield. So if he continues to protect the football, maybe they do win 7-8 games. I'm not ready to give them 9. I'm not ready to give them a winning season at this moment. But I think right now 6 is pretty modest.
We're halfway home with our guy, Mr. David Schiele from CBS 10 in Tampa Bay. He's hanging out with us right here on Sports Zone Chicago, Second City Sports. Sid Lakina hanging out here with you. Now, Dave, let's shift over to your career a little bit. Reading through your bio the last couple of days, you worked in Tennessee before you went to Tampa. You cover, of course, the SEC football, of course. I'll ask you this. Alabama lost to Texas at home last Saturday. Some people want to throw dirt on them. I think that's premature, whether you like them or not. Of course, you have Georgia leading that conference. How do you see SEC football shaping up at the end of the year? Is it Georgia and Alabama than everybody else, or do you see a couple of surprise teams making that mark in that conference?
Yeah. I think the one thing about Alabama, when you look at the film, and I'm actually going to see Alabama tomorrow. They will be playing here in Tampa against South Florida tomorrow. It's the first time in Saban's coaching career at Alabama that he's going to be coaching the Crimson Tide in a road game against the non-Power 5 team. So, I mean, it's people down here are like, how in the heck did you trick that program to coming here? But whatever, right? Alabama's going to come down here and play South Florida. There's going to be a bunch of Crimson in the stadium, and it's going to sound like a home game for Alabama anyway. So, okay, whatever, right? But I think the thing about Alabama that is different is just the attitude. It just feels like there's a different attitude. That pick 6 by Kaylee Ringo in the national championship game a couple years ago, it was a paradigm shift in college football. The moment that brother came down with that ball and took it all the way back to put it away and give Georgia the first national championship in 4 decades, it was a paradigm shift throughout college football. People said you don't have to go to Alabama to win a natty anymore. You don't. You can go to Georgia. And then Tennessee beats them and LSU beats them, right? And now you're like, okay, wait a minute. I can go to Tennessee because Tennessee was number 1 in the country. You could see it. You take a look at LSU, and you're like, okay, maybe I could pull up to LSU. And so you are looking at the SEC in a different way. It used to be Alabama and then everybody else. Alabama's going to play either Georgia or Florida in the SEC title game, and Alabama's probably going to win, and they're going to go to the playoff, and then who knows what happens. It's changed. And I think as of this moment, we don't really know who Georgia is. We know Georgia's good, but Georgia ain't played nobody.
Right.
So we don't know who Georgia is. They're not battle tested. You can't play Ball State and be like, they got it. We don't know that. So we don't know who they are yet. I think we'll get a very good indication tomorrow afternoon against South Carolina. But it looks like it's Georgia and then everybody else, because everybody else has something that you can criticize about them. I think the only team that is kind of like, oh, well, we'll see what they can do. I have expectations is Tennessee. And that's because just like Georgia, we're not totally sure who they are yet, although they do have a win against Virginia, which is a Power 5 program. They were having some struggles against Austin Peay. They were tied 6-6 close to halftime against Austin Peay. So you're like, I don't know, because Hendon Hooker and them boys would have had 35 in the first half. Yeah. Joe Milton and them had 6. And so you're like, I don't know just yet. So, it's for me, Georgia, and then everybody else.
How does Texas and Oklahoma, when they come in next year, that adds a whole different element to the SEC? How do you think that's going to shake out?
Yeah, I have no clue. I can't call it right now. I think the thing about Texas and Oklahoma joining the SEC is they're going to find out, not just in football, but in every sport, how the SEC does not play. They don't play around. And it don't matter. Women's basketball, they don't play around. You got our tribal chief Don Staley in South Carolina right there. You've got the Lady Vols right there. LSU just won the national championship. You know, you're going to find out real quick what SEC women's basketball is about. Same thing with SEC basketball, men's basketball. You're going to find out what they're about. SEC baseball is intense with Tennessee and LSU and Florida. You know, that this is a serious deal. LSU just won the national championship, right? So you're looking at not just football, but the entire conference does not mess around in any sport. And Texas and Oklahoma are going to find out real quick, oh, snap, this is for real. And we really have to bring it in every facet. And to their credit, like you beat Alabama in football. Oklahoma, once again, won the national championship in softball. But you do have to look at it from the holistic perspective, because if I'm the athletic director at those schools, I'm not thinking just football. I'm thinking we're also taking our other two teams and putting them in this conference. You know, we're putting them into this conference, our other programs into this conference, which is highly competitive, and it's just a different beast.
Last moment or two with David Schiele from CBS 10 in Tampa Bay. He's hanging out with us right here on Second City Sports, the hashtag Football Friday edition, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. David, speaking of changing the paradigms, Pro Football Hall of Famer, now head coach of the Colorado Buffaloes, Mr. Deion Sanders, a.k.a. hashtag Coach Prime. His program, he has his young men at 2-0 right now. They're going to face Colorado State under the lights tomorrow. Of course, the Colorado State head coach trying to get under his skin, talking about, oh, I talk to my kids with my sunglasses and hat off, and everybody's taking their shots at Deion Sanders. Give us your thoughts about what Coach Prime has done so far with his program in Colorado.
I mean, it's impressive, right? 2-0 start, a program that won one game last year. So they've already doubled last year's win total. He completely changed over that roster. He's changed the culture of that program. People are talking about the Colorado Buffaloes right now, which is like, for them, whoa, people are talking about Colorado? Yeah, because of what he's done. That's what he brings to that program. The marketing, the swagger, everything, the attitude that he's brought. It's all there. And it's very clear that he knows what he's doing when it comes to X's and O's, because they wouldn't be 2-0 without that. They're not just talking. They're walking the walk along with all the talk. And so if I'm Colorado's coach or Colorado State's coach or Oregon's coach, and if I am on their schedule, if I know I have to play the Buffaloes, stop poking the bear. Stop. I'm not talking about Deion. I'm not. I'm telling my guys, this is what we're going to do. I'm gonna respect the program for what they've done. Look what they're doing. Hey, what they're doing this year is really impressive. What they're doing is noteworthy, and it should be commended, and they're doing awesome. But what we do, we're going our, and I believe our brand. It's not taking them. It's just putting up your guys. You go out and say, D, enough, and should or ain't. Programming is about Colorado's. You're putting more in the chamber for years. How you personal thing, you're making it personal, and when you make it personal, you give his guys more motivation to beat you down, and they probably were going to do it anyway. And now you just made it worse for yourself. You know what I mean? It's just like you just. It's like getting in trouble at school. So you know you finna get it when you get home. You got to go to school. But now in the car, on the car ride, now you talking back to your mama in the car, knowing you finna get it when you get home. You just made it worse for yourself. Stop talking. That's been my whole thing. Stop talking about Deion.
And kill him with kindness too, as the old saying is.
Right.
Yeah, switch gears to the baseball real quick. Of course, you have the Rays, with the Orioles. They're facing each other this week. The Rays are right there. They took the opener against them. What do you think their chances are in the playoffs?
Man, if you had asked me this question a few months ago, I would have been a lot more positive. The thing about the Rays is they're good. They are. They find ways to win. They had a horrible July. July was terrible. Other than that, they've been good. They were great to start the season. Remember, they were 13-0. So they were fantastic to start the season. But my expectations, they're missing so much pitching. They don't have the starting pitching that people thought. That rotation that we thought they were going to have, it's not there. They've got Zach Eflin. They've got Tyler Glass now. Who's number 3? Aaron Savali? it's not bad, but you would rather have Shane McClanahan, who's been in the All-Star game for the past 2 years, right? And then offensively, waiting for Jose Siri. He's got the fracture in his hand, so hopefully he can come back and he's himself. Not just come back, but can you be yourself at the plate? Manuel Margot is going to have to step up. Randy Arozarena is going to have to really be there too. I mean, the team goes as he goes. If Randy's good, everybody's good. So that's kind of been my thing about the Rays. But that starting pitching is so important in the playoffs. And starting pitching injuries have been the Achilles heel of the Tampa Bay Rays this season. I mean, this has been one of the worst seasons ever, or the best season ever, because you had the great start. They had the lead, a strong lead in the AL East, and they lost it. Baltimore's been in first place since sometime in July, maybe, something like that. And then now they have a chance to get it back. And if they can, that's huge. The Rays really need a bye. They need the bye into the divisional series. They have to get it. If they have to play the wild card round, they might make it out, but they're not going to make it out of the DS if they make it out of the wild card. They have to get the bye. Yeah, as I was going to mention, last year they were in the wild card series. They lost that tough series to Cleveland in Cleveland last year. So if you're that team, you don't want to have to go through that situation again. David, thank you very much for joining us today right here on Sports on Chicago's Second City Sports. Before we spring it, where can people catch you on social media? Yeah, so it's real easy. You can catch me on X, Twitter, whatever they call it, and Instagram under the exact same name. It is at Deacon_Schiele. So you see my last name there, Schiele, at Deacon, DEACON_Schiele. That is both Twitter and Instagram. You can also catch me on YouTube. I have a gaming channel. That is 5 Wars Deek. So you spell out the number 5, and you put Wars and then Deek, DEAC. Right now, we are on season 7 of a Madden 08 superstar mode. So basically, I just play I play a football video game. I'm a free safety right now. His name is Solomon Daniels. We're in season 7. He's one of the best players ever to exist, even though he's fictitious. He's been amazing. Only player in NFL history with 5 pick sixes in a season. He's the current active leader in interceptions and defensive touchdowns. So, if you ain't seen it, you're missing out. I'm telling you, we're having so much fun on YouTube with that series. Who needs Deion Sanders or Devin Hester, who should be in the Hall of Fame? We got this character right here.
Oh boy, high stepping and everything.
Yeah, right. Yeah, thank you so Devin much, Hester, man. He was good, man. Devin Hester was somebody special for sure.
Yeah.
Yes, and we got to witness it firsthand here in Chicago. Of course, he came from the University of Miami. David, thank you so much once again for joining us today. Great job, my man. Keep up the great work, and it was an honor and a pleasure for us to talk to you. Keep up the great work, as I mentioned. Enjoy the games on Sunday, and let's do this again very soon. Okay?
Absolutely, man. Thank you, guys. You guys be blessed.
You too.
You too. Stay safe.
All right. Thank you.
All right. No problem.
All right. So that was CBS 10's David Schiele here on Second City Sports on Chicago. So let's stretch for a second for this little stretch right here, because we got our picks coming up. No Christine, but of course we got our picks right here. So a lot to do still. Lakita McGee, Sydney Brown, Second City Sports on Sports on Chicago. Our NFL Week 2 picks coming up right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I needed for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too.
These new socks? They can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov, a public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on the hashtag Football Friday edition. We're live in the living color right here on Sports Soul Chicago. I'm Sid Beslakina. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow McKenna McGee on the Twitter, X, McKenna again, the IG.
This is our last break of the show for today and for the week, so you better make those last-minute questions or comments good. If you want to do so, you can by going to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comments section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you.
All right, Sid, of course, our girl Christine could be with us this week, but we got her picks right here. You're up, by 1 over her, Sid. You got 8.
Yeah, it was a crazy week, so I'm not surprised.
Yeah, she had 7. I'm bringing up the rear with 6, but not discouraged, not discouraged. I mean, look, this is still very early. I'm only in week 2, so not getting too discouraged.
Yeah, you got to pick up the pace, Lakina. Even though I want myself to win, but got to pick up the pace.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, thanks a lot, Chargers, for that. Whatever.
Well, I'll get to that game after we do our picks. I got a story about that game in a minute, but let's get to our picks and then we'll get into some other stuff.
All right. Okay. Well, we should begin to do this real pretty quick, of course.
Okay.
Yeah. First game, off the bat for noon, you got the Packers and the Falcons.
Well, let me get to my schedule if my little Wi-Fi will allow it. Packers and the Falcons, they'll be the number 1 game on Fox, even though it's regional action for that network. Of course, the Packers coming off an 18-point win here in Chicago against the Bears last week. Of course, the Falcons get by the Carolina Panthers in their home debut. Bijan Robinson, the rookie running back out of Texas, watch out for him for the Falcons. Of course, Jordan Love wasn't great, but he didn't have to be. He did just enough to get the Packers to win at Soldier Field last week. The Falcons are a 1.5 favorite. This is really we have really a lot of toss-up games this week, Lakina. We really do.
Yeah, there really are.
But I may hate myself in the morning, but I'm going with Atlanta.
Okay. Also, too, Christine, make sure I don't forget. Let me see if I can. Oh, she has the pack. She has the Packers. So, interesting. Yeah. I mean, for me, this is another one of those toss-up games, like you said, Sid. I mean, this is gonna get one. This is like plenty of. I mean, a lot could happen, I guess, because they're at home. I'll pick the Falcons, but yeah, again, watch Jordan Love did what he did against the Bears last week, so
Right.
good lord. But yeah, but I'll pick the Falcons, I guess, because they're at home. Raiders and Bills. Of course, the Raiders coming off that win against Denver, traveling cross country against Buffalo. Buffalo coming off a short week with that loss to the Jets. I think this is a get right game. Of course, look, Josh Allen, 3 interceptions. I mean, and a few fumbles. You mean, come on now, Josh Allen, you're making yourself look a little silly here. You're looking like Cutler, dare I say? So you better get together. Oh, I don't know what that. Oh, okay, I don't know what that. Oh, sorry, that's my end. Sorry about that. But yeah, I'm picking the Bills. They're at home. I think this is a get right game for them.
Yeah, the Raiders barely escaped Denver last week with a 1-point win. As you mentioned, Buffalo shot themselves in the foot even after Aaron Rodgers' injury by Buffalo Bills defensive end Leonard Floyd, former Bear, by the way. But I think that you're right. This is a get-right game for the Buffalo Bills. They are 8-point favorites at home. I think DeMar Hamlin, don't forget, he's going to get a big hand. He was a healthy scratch last week. Will he play on Sunday? I'm not sure, but he's going to get a big hand from the home crowd regardless. Is Buffalo's home opener, and I expect the Bills to win.
Our girl Christine has the Raiders. She said the Bills couldn't beat the Jets after Rodgers got hurt. So that's her mindset for picking the Raiders. So yeah, but we'll see. I mean, but yeah, you never know. But all right, the third game up. If my little thing here from NFL. Oh, here we go. AFC North battle. Here you got the Ravens and the Bengals.
The Baltimore Ravens dominated the Houston Texans at home last week, as we expected. Lamar Jackson didn't look the best, but he looked well enough to help Baltimore pull out the win. Of course, J.K. Dobbins, their running back, is out for the year. Of course, Gus Edwards and crew will have to do it by collective effort to establish the running game. Cincinnati looked like crap last week. A small part of it was because of the weather in Cleveland, but the other part of it was Joe Burrow. He's still recovering from that calf injury. He missed a whole preseason because of it. You could tell their timing was off. I'm talking about him and Jamar Chase last week. There was no running game there for Cincinnati either. They're at home. They're going to be juiced in front of that sold-out crowd. Cincinnati's better than that. It's going to be a dogfight. I know this is a rematch of last year's wild card game where Cincinnati barely escaped. I think it's going to be a close game. I have Cincinnati winning this one. Cincinnati's an even 3-point favorite at home.
Yeah, I mean, I know that the Ravens have a lot of injuries. I know they've had Marlon Humphrey's out. We know about J.K. Dobbins. He's going to be out. He's out the rest of the year. But I kind of feel like I know, yes, Burrow didn't play the preseason, but there still shouldn't be any. I know you didn't practice a lot either, but that really shouldn't be any excuse. So, but I feel like the Ravens are on a mission. They always have that next man up mentality. And I think they're going to play a little bit better. That old line, Lionel Collins, he's out for the year, so that does not help the Bengals. So I'm picking the Ravens. I mean, I feel like the Ravens want that revenge for that playoff game last year, and I think they're going to take it out on that old line. So I think the Ravens will have this one, and so is Christine. She also agrees. So Look, it might be like a 9-6, 10-7. Of course, as it usually is between these two teams, these AFC North. So really shouldn't expect too much. Next up here, you got the Seahawks and the Lions. And look at the Lions. You look at that big win against Kansas City. They got 10 days off to kind of celebrate and whatnot. Dan Campbell have those guys ready. Seattle I guess it's starting to come back to earth a little bit. So because of that reason, because they're at home, I'm picking the Lions. They had 10 days off to kind of to celebrate that win against the Chiefs. So I think they're gonna take it out on the Seahawks. Well, actually, lay it on the Seahawks, I should say.
The Lions are 4.5-point favorites. This is going to be their 2023 home opener. That crowd is going to be rocking at downtown Detroit at Ford Field. Remember, Seattle came in there and banged around Detroit last year. Of course, that game turned out to be the difference with Seattle making the playoffs and the Lions not making it. So the Lions players who were on that team last year, they're going to be reminded of how Seattle basically ended their season last year, even though that game was around this time a year ago. They came down to that tiebreaker. But regardless of that, Lakina, I agree with you. I think Seattle will play a little bit better because they were stunned at home last week against the Rams, losing in ugly fashion. But I think the Lions are on a mission. Dan Campbell, as you mentioned, he'll have his guys focused. I'm going with Detroit.
Yeah, they want that revenge from last year. That's another reason why I'm picking Detroit. So, yeah, that might be an ugly one there. Interesting one here in the AFC South. You got the Colts and the Texans. I mean, I know the Texans, they gave the Ravens all they could handle. They hung in there for a little bit. The Colts were actually pretty good against the Jags and worked for a couple of, questionable plays. Again, this could be one of those ugly games. Another one of these toss-up games, especially in the division. I'll pick the Colts, and so is Christine. She has the Colts as well.
The Texans are 1-point favorites at home. Both teams are 0-1, as you mentioned. I want to go with the Houston Texans here, but I got to see more on offense before I start to take them seriously. I know, as we said before, they have the defense. We saw that last year when they were worse than this. But I know D'Amico Ryans has an uphill battle, but I think, like I said, I think his team is going to get better as the year goes on, along with rookie quarterback C.J. Stroud. But I liked what I saw with Anthony Richardson last week against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, he's going to be introduced to a better defense than the Houston Texans, but this is really tough. It's really tough. I can see Houston winning. I can see the Colts escaping. Now, I think this is going to be your 15-10 game, your 12-6 game, to be honest with you.
This could be one of those games too. Yeah,
I'm going with the Colts. So it's going to be a clean sweep. But I would not be surprised if Houston won it.
Well, no, I wouldn't either. So yeah, like I said, it's basically a pick 'em. So we'll see.
Yeah, I'm going with the Colts.
So sweep of the Colts there. Chiefs and Jags, an interesting one here. Of course, Chris Jones, of course, is now got his. Well, he doesn't have his bag, but he does have his bag for this season. So this is going to be a prove-it game. And of course, both and he and Travis Kelce will be playing as well. They're going to want to get that taste out of their mouth against the Lions. The Jags are, this is sort of like one of those big, tests for them to see how good they are and how far they come. I know that place in Jacksonville is going to be rocking. I'll pick the Chiefs, but again, I wouldn't be surprised if the Jags pulled off the quote-unquote upsets.
Yeah, the Kansas City Chiefs are 3.5-point favorites on the road. I know many people want to push the Chiefs off the cliff, especially after what happened a week or so ago against the Detroit Lions to open up the season at home. Lakina, I want to pick Jacksonville. I really do. I think they're really coming on strong. They're trying to build off of what happened last year. Remember, last year they lost to the Chiefs both times. I'm talking about Jacksonville, but they were close games. So of course, what happened in the playoffs last year, they injured Patrick Mahomes' ankle, but it didn't matter as Kansas City went on to win that game. Of course, winning the whole damn Super Bowl. But I think this is going to be a tough physical game. Can Kansas City survive it? I don't know. I think they're going to have problems early because remember, Chris Jones, yeah, he's in shape, but not in football shape. Travis Kelce, I think he's going to be fine, but it's going to take him a minute to get back into rhythm. So I think it's going to be closer than what people expect. I'm going with Kansas City. But I wouldn't be surprised if Jacksonville wins this game either, because if Jacksonville wins this game, this really gives a big statement about their team, not just for them, but for the rest of the AFC.
And the Bears are going to have to face them in a bad mood too. So if you're the Bears, you better be cheering for the Chiefs to win this game against the Giants. Of course, Christine has the Chiefs as well. Christine has the Chiefs, and she does the same thing you did, Sid, about look. She wouldn't be surprised if the Jags pull off the quote unquote upset. So none of us there will be really big shockers here. Next up, you have the Chargers and the Titans. You start this one for us, please.
Unlike you with the San Diego Superchargers, or we call them the San Diego Chargers of Los Angeles on this show. The Chargers, they wet the bed in the fourth quarter against Miami last week in a high-scoring affair. Of course, the Titans, they shot themselves in the foot with turnovers at New Orleans last week. Both teams are 0-1. The Chargers are 2.5-point favorites. I'm going with the Chargers, Lakina. The Chargers are a better team. But as we've seen over the years, the Titans, no-name defense, they have some playmakers. And if Justin Herbert decides to pull a Baker Mayfield and turn the ball over a lot, it's going to be hell to pay for the Chargers. You're talking about a team that cannot afford to start 0-2. That's the Chargers. So I'm picking the Los Angeles Chargers. They better win this game. They're the better team. And DeAndre Hopkins, I know his status is up in the air for Sunday as far as him playing for the Titans. So I'm going with the Chargers. They're the better team, but if they don't win this, they're really in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, I need Herbert to do well. I mean, I had got up my fantasy team, so I'm hoping he does well against that Titans defense. We know that we talked about with our girl Kelly Anderson, when we did the AFC South preview. I mean, the Titans are actually good, got a good defense with a bunch of no names for the most part, and I'm hoping that they can, kind of, they're not in a good mood. Talk about the Chargers after that loss against Miami at home. I'm picking the Chargers too. I hope I don't look like an idiot afterwards. I might. You never know. But yeah, I know Alcindor is going to be out. He's banged up. I know Mike Willis is banged up as well for the Chargers. But I think they're going to do. I think that defense is going to just enough to slow down Derrick Henry and that offense. I think they're going to do, and the offense is just enough. I mean, this could be a slugfest, but I think I'm picking the Chargers. And so is Christine. She has the Chargers as well. All right. Oops, sorry. Oops, that's me, folks. Sorry. Okay, we start with our 3:00 games here. You got the Giants and the Cardinals, but I think we could just skip this one and just say the Giants. I mean, the Cardinals are tanking, so there's really no sense. That's basically it. The Giants. That game against the Cowboys. They can't play worse than that, can they? But I don't think they will against the Cardinals. So this is probably my lock. If I do locks, I mean, this is probably my lock for this week. I'm gonna pick the Giants in a bounce back, the ultimate bounce back game for them.
Yeah, Giants.
All right, hold on. I think let me double check. I think Christine's got Giants as. Let me see. Give me a minute here, folks. We're doing this live. I know she had the Giants as well. So we all got the Giants.
Good.
Yeah, right. I mean, I know. Jesus. There's here in the NFC West. They got the 49ers and the Rams. We know these two teams play very good games. So you start this one.
I know the Rams gave the 49ers trouble early last season before the wheels came off for the Rams. And like you said, that was a classic game a couple of years ago in the NFC Championship game. The 49ers blew out Pittsburgh last week on the road. Of course, the Rams shocked everybody by beating Seattle on the road in the hostile environment last week. But I think the Rams will come down to earth in their home opener at SoFi Stadium. The 49ers are a better team there on a mission. Brock Purdy doesn't have to do too much. Hopefully, Deebo Samuel will have a little bit more production on offense. P.S. I have him on my fantasy team. And I have the 49ers defense on my fantasy team, too. So hopefully they'll get after Matthew Stafford and company. So unlike Seattle, what they did last week. So
right.
The Rams are 7-point underdogs. I'm taking the 49ers. I'm taking the points. We don't do points price on the show. So I'm taking the 49ers to win outright.
Yeah, I mean, these two teams always play, interesting and classic games. So we saw, last year, of course, especially in the playoffs as well. So I know the Rams. I know Puka. I forgot the guy's last name already. For the Rams, he didn't prize a lot this week, so he might be doubtful. I think the 49ers are on a mission. I think that they felt they left a lot of points on the board against the Steelers last week. I'm gonna pick the 49ers. But then again, you never know, and when these two teams play each other. So, this could be a slug again, another slugfest. So, but I think the 49ers will pull away, either for me to say late. And of course, Christine said she said this is going to be her game of the week. So should be a fun, as it usually is, between these two teams.
Who did she pick?
She with the 49ers.
Okay.
Yeah. So all right, this is CBS. Remember, CBS has a doubleheader this week, folks. This is a game of the week. Well, maybe not anymore with Aaron Rodgers' injury. The Jets and Cowboys. I didn't get to see Aaron Rodgers play for the snap. I mean, by the time I watched that game against the by the time they won't, that game against the Bills, he was already hurt. So I'm like, wait, what happened? And of course, I got to go through social media and whatnot. But I know the Cowboys. I mean, I don't think they're gonna beat the Jets by 30 points. Like they're not gonna shut them out. But I feel like the Jets. Zach Wilson. I know that defense is gonna be still very good. I'll say the Cowboys since they're at home, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Jets pull off the quote-unquote upset without Aaron Rodgers.
The Jets going to have everything go right for them to beat the Dallas Cowboys. I'm with you. I'm not saying that the Dallas Cowboys are going to win by 30. I don't think that's going to happen either. But the Cowboys did not need Dak Prescott to be his best self last week. I think he needs to step it up a little bit this week. I know the Jets defense they're a little bit better than the Giants defense. But the Jets going to have to run the football with Breece Hall, who looked great last week, and Dalvin Cook, who I have on my fantasy team. Get him in the end zone at least once, please. But the Jets have to rely on that heavily on their running game. Take that pressure off of Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson, he cannot turn the ball over. If he does that, the Jets will have a great chance to pull off the upset. But Dallas is the better team here. Dallas is favored by 9. I think they'll beat them by more than 9, but like you said, I don't think it's going to be another 30, 40-point blowout. So I'm going with Dallas.
And Christine agrees. She says the same thing. She says she's picking the Cowboys as well. So should be interesting, matchup between these two squads. And our Bright Spiro Deals for CBS going to have the other game of that 325 say for CBS. You got the Commanders and the Broncos. So you start this one, Sid.
The Denver Broncos are 3.5-point favorite at home. I think Sean Payton will have a better idea about what Russell Wilson can do. Hopefully, he'll have a better running game. Washington, they did what they had to do, although Arizona gave them a scare in their home opener last week. Because the Broncos are the better team slightly, and they do well at home in September, even though what happened last week was a thud. I'm going with Denver. And this definitely could be an ugly, close one.
Oh, yeah, another one of those ugly, close games, right?
Yes.
Denver, look, Denver and the Commanders. I know the Commanders, they got a lot of little spring this stuff. They got new ownership and such, so they're playing with a little bit of a kind of like a little bit more up to them. So, I think that this is going to be a very interesting game and should be an intriguing game. But, I'm going to pick the Broncos since they're at home. I think I just don't know what's going to go on with the especially with the altitude too. I know a lot of those guys, for the Commanders probably have not played in that altitude before, so this could be a chance where Sean Payton will lose if the Broncos lose this game. So I picked the Broncos, and so is Christine. She picks the Broncos as well. And hold on, let me get the thing here. The Sunday night game here should be an interesting one here in the AFC East. You got the Dolphins and the Patriots. I really like the Patriots, how they looked last week. They kind of started a little bit slow. They almost won that game against the Eagles. The Dolphins, coming off that game, upsetting the Chargers. This could be one of those really close games. So, but I'm picking the Dolphins. Sure, I'll be a believer in Tua. Sure, I'll pick the Dolphins.
I know they've done well up there in New England over the last couple of years since Tom Brady's no longer there. Like you said, New England was very impressive, especially in that second half against Philadelphia last week. Philadelphia took their foot off the gas pedal, nearly got caught. But Mac Jones is going to have to play better, Lakina. He's just going to have to. As I mentioned before, that Patriots defense is a young and hungry defense. They can run the ball with DeMondre Stevenson and Ezekiel Elliott. And I think it's going to be close from here on out. I guarantee this. Miami's not going to score 30 points in Foxborough. I guarantee you that, even though Tyreek Hill's on my fantasy team. But with that being said, the Dolphins are 3-point favorites on the road. This is going to be my upset of the week. I'm going with New England at home. I cannot see Bill Belichick being embarrassed at home 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, that might be a little extra incentive for that. But Christine disagrees. She has the Dolphins, so we'll see. Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if the Patriots pull it out at home. The first of 2 Monday night games this week. This was going to be on ESPN. No Manicast this week. Sorry, Sid, for everyone that loves the Manicast. I know. Saints and Panthers. Look, the Panthers actually looked okay. Even though they lost last week, the Saints needed they got it was a slip between them and the Titans. The Saints are just slightly better in the NFC South than the favorites there, so I'm picking the Saints. I guess because they're on the road, but I'm picking the Saints. Sure, why not?
I'm going with the Saints as well, even though they're 3-point road favorites. Of course, Carolina, they're going through a rebuild right now with Bryce Young, who I think is going to get better as the year goes on. New Orleans, I know they're missing Alvin Kamara for the first couple of games. I think he's going to miss 2 more games before he makes his return. But that Saints offense is going to have to play much better because they got away with it last week against Tennessee because Tennessee tripped over themselves. So Saints going to have to play better, especially offensively. They're going to bring it defensively with Cam Jordan and LaShawn Lattimore, who had a good game last week. So I'm going with New Orleans.
Yeah, and Christine agrees. She also has New Orleans, so sweep there. The second game, the second Monday night game will be overlap. This will be on ABC and stream on ESPN Plus. Of course, Joe Buck and Troy Aikman will be doing this game. At AFC North, you got Broncos and Steelers. You start this one, Sid.
Of course, Cleveland's coming up that upset win against Cincinnati at home last week with the 20-point blowout. Of course, the Steelers were embarrassed at home by the 49ers. Something gives here because it's, like you said, it's a division matchup. I just cannot see the Steelers going over to Lakina. I just cannot. And like I said, it's a division game. I know Cleveland played much better last week, but they're going into a hostile environment. Mike Tomlin will have his team ready. Kenny Pickett's going to have to play better. They're going to have to run the ball better with Najee Harris as well. So get your playmakers involved. I think it's going to be another physical game between these two teams. I see Pittsburgh coming out there winning by a field goal. Cleveland's a 2.5-point favorite.
Yeah, I know Cam Hayward's going to be out for a bit, so that might.
That's going to be huge, but.
That's going to be huge. But at the same time, though, I think that offense for Cleveland, do you really trust them? Well, I know they played well last week against the Bengals, but I kind of wonder, was it because, Joe Burrow was very rusty, and like you said, I know Heisfield is going to be rocking. I know that Mike Tomlin's going to make sure his guys do not lose 2 in a row at home. So I'm picking the Steelers as well, as so is Christine. She also picks the Steelers. So
we know she's picking Pittsburgh.
Of course. Obviously, for obvious reasons, look back on the tape. You guys don't know why she's picking the Steelers, but all right. But last but not least, the beloved Bears as they go at Tampa. Sid, you start this one for us, please.
Tampa's a 2.5-point favorite. The Bears scores were embarrassed at home last week. Dan Hampton called Eddie Jackson a clown after looking at the all 22 tape. Jerry Payton, our guy, friend of this show from WGN, he said something about the whole Bears team regarding Chase Claypool and the rest of that team with their lack of effort last week. I know everybody in Chicago is on the Bears, and rightfully so. I think the Bears will play better, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Baker Mayfield, if he can hang on to that football, like we talked about in our last segment with David Schiele from CBS 10 in Tampa, it's going to be another tough day for the Chicago Bears. I think that Justin Fields may have a rough day, as we mentioned in the interview. He's going to see a whole lot of blitzes. I want to see how talking about Justin Fields' response. They got to run the ball better, and you got to find a way to get DJ Moore some more targets. Put him in motion, have him in the slot, something, because they game plan last week by Bears offensive coordinator Luke Getsy was garbage. Hopefully we will never see that again. Because this Tampa Bay defense, even though we said Green Bay's defense was good last week, this Tampa Bay defense is better. All of them didn't leave with Tom Brady after last season, folks. So some of them are still there. So to take pressure off of Justin Fields, you must run the ball with your committee and get DJ Moore some more targets. With that being said, and the Bears will be wearing their orange helmets and jerseys, by the way. I don't know if that's going to help, but regardless of the fact, I have Tampa Bay winning by a field goal.
Yeah, I mean, this is gonna be a very close game. It's not like the last time these two teams played, whereas Brady, I think Tom Brady, threw for like 5 or 6 touchdowns or something like that. Yeah. And they saw a lot of Vita Vila, and I remember, like you said, a lot of those core guys, Levante David, Vita Vila, Shaq Barrett. I mean, a lot of those guys are still there. So I'm sure they're, both going to be blitzing like there's nobody's business. And, poor Justin Fields is going to have whiplash. It's going to be close. This could be one of those, like, last team with the ball wins. But I don't trust the Bears. I think the Bears will show a better effort, but I think the Bucs are. This might be the last game, the last window the Bucs will have for a while because it gets tougher for them after that. So I'm gonna pick the Bucs, and our girl Christine also has the Bucs as well. As she even says, same old. So that's look. I mean, look. If the Bears somehow pull it out. I mean, look, I won't be shocked, but I don't think they're gonna do it this week. I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, so those are our week 2 NFL picks. Check back in with us next week to see how we did as we get you set for week number 3 from the National Football League. We have a couple of minutes off the key as you listen to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, #Football Friday. Sid Lakina here with you on Sports Zone Chicago. Lakina, how did you do in your fantasy league last week?
I did pretty well. I mean, I won, my league. I know I got a nice little showing from Stephon Diggs and Garrett Wilson, like I said, on Monday. So did pretty well. Yeah, I did pretty well. So I think I'm looking pretty good this week too. So we'll see.
Your boy got 49 points from Tyreek Hill
Nice.
because in our War Media League, I went up against our guy Tony Gill. We're gonna get him on this program at some point down the road from NBC Sports Chicago in the Ringer on the Full Goal podcast with Jason Goff. He's doing a great job over there as well. Mm-hmm. But I was facing Tony Gill last week, and he had Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson. He was leading above me, but I had Tyreek Hill. He gave me 49 points. I had the 49ers defense. Oh, your boy was rolling. So I ended up beating Tony last week. And, of course, last night I had the kicker, Jake Elliott from the Eagles. Yeah. And, of course, I'm facing Kenneth Davis, who's the host of the Under Center podcast from NBC Sports Chicago. You can watch it on YouTube at NBC Sports Chicago. You can catch him on Wednesdays live on TV on NBC Sports Chicago at 5:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. But right now, Davis is leading me 30-11. Of course, he had Devontae Smith last night, who had a hell of a game against Minnesota. 4 catches for 131 and a touchdown. Of course, I had the Philadelphia's kicker, Jake Elliott, who gave me 11 points, including a 61-yard field goal. Your boy was happy. So,
wow, yeah, I know.
What happens with that? Yeah, I got a couple extra points because of the distance.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, look, the fantasy. I know that let me see. It's going to be very interesting with some of these matchups. A lot of these, they're toss-up matches, so it might be some high scores here for all you guys fantasy nuts. So it should be interesting what happens this week. So yeah, I'm in for a pretty. I think I'm facing the guy I'm facing. I think he has. Wait, hold on. Let me put it up real quick. But this is going to be very interesting. Like I said, I mean, with all the toss-up games that we have this week, so it's going to be very interesting with some of these matchups. So looking forward to a lot of these, and we'll see how it goes. But I know we didn't, like I said, I mean, I got 4 points from Alexander Mattson last week, who had the subject of some terrible racial threats online. Hello, Philadelphia, or all you Minnesota fans. I mean, look, be a little bit classy there. Don't look like idiots, but whatever. But
that's just dumb.
Yeah, I know, right? The guy I'm facing has Daniel Jones, so I'm sure we'll see if he has a bounce back week this week. But yeah, against Arizona, you might have a big showing there, so I might lose because of that. But we'll see. It should be interesting there. Now, basketball, real quick, Sid. I know we were going to talk about this. Of course, the U.S. men lost to Canada in the FIBA championship, the bronze medal game. And unfortunately, of course, they didn't take home a medal. But guys like Anthony Davis, LeBron, Steph, and I think even Klay Thompson too said they would love to play in the Olympics next year. So what do you think, real quick?
If all of them are healthy throughout this upcoming season, they should do it. Because I think we talked about this on our last show or sometime last week. This will be the last hurrah for LeBron, for the older guys like LeBron James and Steph Curry. And if Kevin Durant, who played in the last Olympics a couple of years ago, should he be interested in joining, it'll be the last hurrah for him as well. So like we said before, with that FIBA basketball cup, like I said, half those guys, maybe 1 or 2 guys will be chosen to play on this team coming up next summer. But I'm not worried about that. The bigger prize is the gold medal. With all the superstars that want to participate and to play in these games, they'll do it. So I don't have a problem with that. Let's say maybe Anthony Edwards from this team, from the FIBA team, will be on the team. But outside of that, no one else is going to go. They'll all be second or third string backups should somebody go down. I want to ask you real quick regarding the Chicago Bulls. Remember, Zach LaVine playing in the last Olympics. I'm not saying he should be on this team now. I gave the damn question away. But do you think he should be on standby just in case a player like Anthony Edwards or Klay Thompson gets injured or they decide to back out in the last minute?
Yeah, I think he should. I think he was actually a really good contributor in that gold medal game. So I think he should definitely be. I think DeMar DeRozan. I think he did play a couple Olympics before, so I don't know if he'll want to play again this year. But I know Patrick Williams was in that part of that, fourth string, backup. But I think he should. I think Yeah, I think there's gonna be a whole lot of guys. I think he should be on there. I know Io might take a little bit of a sniff of it too as well. So yeah, I mean a lot of those guys could be on standby just in case one of those guys go down.
I don't know if Devin Booker's going to play, but if he says yes, would you put him in there right away? I would.
Yeah, I think so too. I think if he wants to play, let him play. So should be interesting. And also too, you got Connor Bedard. First look at him in on the Blackhawks uniform. They're practicing right now as we speak. Training camp starts in a couple of weeks, so should be interesting there. Yeah, new era and with the Blackhawks.
Yeah, they're going to air the Prospects games live on their website at blackhawks.com, so you can get to see Connor Bedard and all the other young players facing off against each other. So that should be fun. I know we're really up against it, Lakina, but I want to give a shout-out real quick. We didn't get a chance to do it on air, but a couple of weeks ago, our guy Joshua M. Hicks, who covers the Bulls for the Bigs Media and War Media, he was on the CHGO Bulls podcast with Matt Peck and Big Dave Watson. Both of the guys are friends of the show. We'll have him on during the NBA season. Josh gave us a shout out during that episode, along with Dave and Matt. They're awesome guys, and like I said, we've been hanging out with them for years. During this show, and hopefully we can appear on that show at some point. And also, too, Josh Hicks was on the latest episode of the Bulls Talk podcast on NBC Sports Chicago as part of a panel with Tony Gill, and Tony Gill hosted that episode. If you guys missed that, you can download the Bulls Talk podcast from NBC Sports Chicago, wherever you get your podcast, or decide to watch it on YouTube. Just type in NBC Sports Chicago Bulls Talk, and the latest episode will feature Tony Gill and, of course, Joshua M. Hicks from the Bigs Media.
Look at our little bro Josh, being they'll go in big places. So hopefully I'm sure we'll have all those guys. We'll have all those guys as the basketball season gets closer. So
can't wait.
So it should be a lot of fun there. With that said, on that let's end on that high. Sid, you follow me, Peter McGee, on the Twitter, X, and Kale's going to get in the IG. You
can follow yours truly, Sydney Brown, on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80. Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Make sure you follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including that iHeartRadio app. And make sure you give War Media a follow at WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We'd like to thank Mr. David Schiele from CBS 10 in Tampa Bay, WTSP Television. He hopped on with us to talk Buccaneers as they have their home opener against our Chicago Bears coming up on Sunday. You can watch that game on Fox. That's at noon on Sunday, Chicago p.m. Chicago time. And Lakina, it should be interesting, like you said, but I think the Bears are going to have another tough game on their hands.
Yeah, I know everyone says it could be a get-right game, but I think you guys are forgetting that, especially that defense. I mean, that Tampa Bay defense is going to be gunning for Justin, so he might be running for his life a lot in that game. So we'll see what happens there. And, of course, if you guys want to watch the WNBA playoffs, of course, you got Game 2 of Sky as they host the Aces. They need to win this game or to force a Game 3. If you saw it happen the first game, I don't know if that's going to happen, but we'll see. But, you can check it out on Sunday. I think it's going to be on ABC 7. Speaking of ABC 7, a special shout out to Jim Rose. He's going to be retiring after this broadcast. I mean, this will probably be up on War after the broadcast are real. But want to give a little shout out to him after Jim Rose after 41 years. I remember when he said he did an interview with the Sun-Times. He said that when he first came here, you didn't see a lot of sportscasts, especially the big cities that look like us. So he was one of the guys, one of the trailblazers for them. So, congrats on a great 41-year career, Mr. Jim Rose.
Yes, a salute to Mr. Rose for a great 40-plus year career at ABC 7 Chicago, WLS TV. Don't forget, you can catch Second City Sports every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more time, you can catch Second City Sports live and in living color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
And of course, you can catch Sports on Chicago anytime, anywhere on Roku TV. You're real quick. Of course, if you got your Roku on your whatever device you got, on the App Store, type in Sports on Chicago. You can catch our show, Sean and Maya, the Smoke Fellas, and of course, What's Up, Cuz, and all the great programming as well. You can catch it. Catch the rebroadcast of our show anytime, anywhere.
Yes. All right.
All right. Now,
take us home.
All right, enjoy all the great sports. We got football, baseball, WNBA playoffs, soccer's, the international soccer's back. So, there's a lot of sports to watch. So, stay warm out there. I know there's of course, with Hurricane Lee coming up. You guys stay safe out there in the Northeast. In the coastal areas. It's gonna be a lot of winds and a little bit of rain. So, guys, please be careful there and be good to each other. This has been Second City Sports on Sports on Chicago, and we'll see you Monday.
Let's go, Coach Prime. Holla!
Brother.